welcome back and thanks for joining me. Look at this cute little card. This card, I'm calling it a diamond shutter card because I kind of got the inspiration from the shutter cards. So this card, I just tried it. I haven't seen this card style before, so I hope that you like this. So it's pretty easy to make. So let's just dive right in and get started. So we'll need our scoreboard. And for our first piece, this is going to be cut at 10 by 5 1/4. And then you just fold that right in half, or you can score it. I just folded mine. Then we need 2 pieces, and these are going to be cut at 5 3/4 by 9 1/2. On the 5 3/4 inch side, you're going to score this at 1 inch. And we'll do that on both pieces. Right, so we'll set those aside for a minute. Then we need 2 pieces, and these are going to be cut at 1 1/2 by 1. And I'm going to grab my little baller scoring because it's just a little bit better for this one. So I'm going to score it at 1/4, 1/2, 1, and 1 1/4. And you want to do that on both pieces. So it's just those little tabs that are going to help to move the card open and closed. Next, we need 2 pieces, and these are, I did 2 different colors. These are 4 1/4 inch square. And I have an extra piece, but I'm actually going to use that, but I'm going to change the size of it. So we'll get to that later. All right, so we're done with our scoreboard. So for our first 2 pieces, what we're going to do is we don't need all of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to first fold this in half. Now we could have scored this, but I find if your scoreboard doesn't match the same dimensions as your trimmer when you're cutting your paper, it kind of throws it off. So I'm just going to fold these in half and then crease them out. And I'm making sure they're perfectly lined up. So we'll do that to both pieces. And then we need to cut away a section. So we're going to just cut one of the sections from the bottom up and then to that score line. And then we'll do the same thing to the other one. Okay, so now that that is done, what we're going to do is we're going to fold these. And so we're going to do a diagonal fold, and I'm going to line this up. Again, you could have scored this, but when I did it scoring, it doesn't seem to line up right for some reason. So I'm just making sure it's not going to go over the edge of that fold line, and then I'm just going to crease out that fold. So making sure it's straight. It doesn't go over the edge. And then just crease that one out. Then you're going to turn it so that you've got it going facing the opposite direction, and you're going to do the same thing. So you want the lines to go parallel to each other. And again, making sure it's not over the edge, and then just crease that out. And then when you fold in half, you'll see it lays pretty flat, so that you don't have any bulkiness, so it's not like interfering with itself. All right, so we'll do the second one. Again, just make sure it doesn't go over that center piece. And just crease out that fold, making sure it lays flat. And then I'll flip it over and do the same thing. I tried it with the trimmer, and it just didn't cut as nice. All right, so that's the second piece. And then you'll also we're going to take these 2 edges or the extra flaps, and we're going to fold those. So just fold them in and then just crease it out. All right, so when you have the card, I'll show you how this goes together. So these are going to lay like this, and then they're just going to slide into each other. So now we've got to do a line on here, cut, so that we can put that little piece in there so it'll slide. So what you want to do is I'm just going to make these flat again. And we're going to cut on the opposite side of where that extra tab is. So we're going to cut on these 2 sides. Now, if you had pattern paper, you want to make sure that you're cutting on the right side. And so I'm going to grab my trimmer. And I'm going to put this on my trimmer so it's at 1/2 inch. And then we're going to go from 4 inches. Make sure, and then down to 1.5. And then I'm going to move it over just a little bit. I'm going to do a second one. Do the same thing, go from 4 to 1.5. And you'll see this is just a little slit that I just cut out. That's all we need. Just need just a little slit for that piece of paper to fit in. And do the same thing on the second one. And perfect. All right, then for those two pieces that were, and this is very thin, like almost like a printer paper. It's very thin, but it also helps to stop the bulk on the card. We're just going to cut these in half. And the easiest way to do this so you don't rip your paper is when you lined up your two ends in the track. Don't start at the end and cut. Lift up your blade and go in just a little bit and then cut and then come back down. That way it'll stop your paper from grabbing. Sometimes it'll grab and then you'll mess up your paper. So that's a good way not to do that. All right, so we're done with our trimmer. So now we're going to work on these two pieces. So we're going to take that little slit that we did and we're going to cut it out. And then we're going to grab those two little pieces that we cut. And we're going to fold these. So you just want to fold them in and then out. So make the inside of the do Valley Mountain or Mountain Valley. So you've got a piece that looks like this. Let me see if I can get it closer to the camera for you so you can see it. So just like that. And I'll do the second one. You can take your scoring tool and just really push those down too. All right, so we're going to put these inside and we're going to just put those two little flaps. You're going to go through that little slit. And then once you have them through, go ahead and take another piece of just scrap paper, and it doesn't have, no one's going to see it, so it can be any color, anything. So I'm just going to cut an extra piece off that I had laying here. And it doesn't matter what size, you just want it to cover those two flaps. I'm going to grab my glue, and we're just going to put glue just on these two little flaps right here. Don't get too much so it doesn't go over. And then we'll just put these right on. Oops, I got just a little bit too much glue on there. So make sure there is no glue, and make sure you wipe off any excess glue. You just want to make sure that slides freely. All right, we'll do the next one. And again, this is just to hold it so it doesn't come through. And again, make sure it slides. All right. So now we're going to work on the layers. So let me just show you how this goes again. So when you fold these down, so this one will fold this way and it will be the top. And then the second one, flip it over, and this one will be like this. As you can see, the devices are at the opposite sides, and then your two little over pieces. And so this is how these are going to sit on here. So these will be the inside pieces. So when this closes, so you'll put one on each flap. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to open this back up. So you're going to put them when these are folded in opposite from those two flaps. So we'll glue these down. And you could glue this piece down to itself if you wanted, but I'm not going to glue it down to it because it'll stay the way it is. So you don't need to glue them. And then we'll glue this one. And I'm just going to make sure that glue is down on both of those. All right, that's for the inside of the card so far. Now I'm going to fold these back again, make sure they're folded nicely. And when this goes together, you're going to slide the bottom one in and top so they fold just like that, and they're going to line up. Now mine doesn't line up a little bit because again, if you are off on your folding, it will show you have a little crease in there. So you want to make sure that your sliders are facing opposite directions, and you're going to put glue on both the sliders. And then you just want to take that little flap and just close it over. But again, make sure the slider is all the way to the end and your card is stuck together. And then just kind of push those down and let that glue before you move it. Now you also want to take and you want to put glue on that flap on each other end. Now you're not going to glue it closed because it's going to pull in the opposite direction. I know it looks like you're gluing it shut, but you're not. So make sure this gets closed and make sure it gets glued tight. All right, so I'm going to flip this over and see what it looks like. All right, so that's how it looks so far. So you can see it slides because you've got those little extra pieces that are the tabs on each end that are keeping the card sliding in there. All right, so on the front of the card, we're going to put these two pieces. And again, I used the lighter paper because I didn't want to add any extra bulk on here because this card's going to be pretty thick. So we're going to put one on this side. And then we'll put the other piece on the other side. And you could use your tape if you wanted to on this. I'm just using my Barely Art glue today. All right, so that is for the basic mechanism of the card. Again, you can see mine doesn't quite close right, but this is the first attempt at it, and I'm liking the way it's going, so we're just going to continue with the card. All right, now for the base of the card. We have the one piece that's folded, and I did cut a piece that was a little bit smaller than the card base, because what I'm going to do is I didn't want white to show through there, because you're going to, if you don't put paper in here, you're going to see whatever the color is on that background. So I'm going to put this extra piece, and it's just the size of the card with a 1/4 inch all the way around. It looks like it's just a little bit bigger. All right, then we're going to secure this down to the card. All right, so I'm going to close this. All right, so when we close this, what we're going to do is we're going to put glue on one flap and there. That's the only places you're going to put glue. So you want to put it on the one flap and then that one triangle piece, but don't put it on the other flap. So you're not going to do that one. So secure this down and make sure it's down pretty good. And then when you pull it, you'll see the paper on the bottom, and then it'll close. Now I am going to cut just a little bit off the card because the end is just a little bit too long. So I'm just trimmed that just a little bit, just so that I had an even border all the way around. I like that better. All right, now for the inside of the card. First of all, I have just a slide me circle, and this is just a 1-inch punch. So I'm going to put glue on this. Now you can use an arrow, you can use just a piece of a square you could put on there, anything that you want to. I did a circle, so I'm just going to put this right in the center and about halfway on. Then I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to put glue on another circle. And then we'll put that right on top of that one. That will help to keep it secure on the front and the back. You know, the paper feels really thin for some reason. I thought I was using the cardstock. So I'm going to add another piece, I think, on here, since I have the blue circles, because I had cut those out first. I'm going to put the blue circle in here just to add a little bit of extra weight to this because it feels really flimsy. Yeah, that feels a little bit better. All right, so that is for the front. All right, now for the inside of the card, what we're going to do is I've got some letters already pre-cut. Now you could stamp on here. If you stamp, you might want to do it before you put the card together, but I'm just going to use some words. So I've got your, one, cool. I already put these on my tape just to make it faster for us, so you don't have to watch me try to struggle with these. And then we'll put cat at the bottom. And this one even has an exclamation point on it. It's pretty cute. All right, so I'm going to glue these down. And again, I'm using my Barely Art glue, and I'm just putting dots of glue on here, just enough to hold it. Oops. All right, so we'll turn that back around. And I'm just going to line this up just so it looks pretty even. I'm not going to pull the tape off now. I'm just going to let that sit while I glue the other ones. I'll pull the tape off at the end. Yeah, we'll let that sit for a minute. All right, so next I'm going to glue the one. So I just grabbed my rubber mat because I noticed I was getting glue everywhere, or my silicone mat. So I'm going to use that just so I don't get glue on my new purple mat. And we'll put cool right in the middle. And you could put characters in here. You could put just a whole bunch of different things. Cute one would be like even like animals like holding on to the sides or something would be really super cute. So that might be on another card. As I have watched this, I have more ideas of what I want to do. Right, so I'm just pulling these off. You want to make sure that they're secure before you pull them off, because otherwise they'll come right off. Sometimes the letters will split in half too. So this one, the tape, I got it just a little bit too far down, so I'm just using my poker just to help me lift the letters up, or the tape up. Okay, good. It didn't come off. And I'm not worried about the letters because there's nothing touching them, so I'm not worried about the letters coming off or getting rubbed when the card is open and closed because they're not in the way. All right, then I've got this little cat that I drew. I did put a double layer of sunglasses on him. And then what I did is I cut out some circles that are 1/2 inch. And then I put them on my trimmer and cut them, but they didn't cut all the way. And I thought, oh, that looks like sunglasses. So I'm going to glue these down, just some extra ones on the front of the card. And we'll put the cat right on the front. Making sure that's closed all the way. So I'm just going to use some glue dots on the cat. So I'm just going to put just a couple around on him. And then I'm going to put him just on this lower half, just like that. And I just realized that I just covered up the one. So you guys should have told me that I should have opened that up to watch, because now my one you can't see, but that's what happens when you craft. So we're just going to leave it. All right, so I'm going to glue these down. I just want to make sure they're straight so they look like sunglasses. This is great if you have a character and you want to put some sunglasses on. This is a great way to do it. I just did it by accident, actually. And then I'm going to take a white pen and I'm just going to do some highlights on the glasses. And then I think I'm going to put one more just on the inside of the card. Now I left the inside of the card blank. This is where you can write a note, or you could stamp another message in here if you wanted to. And that's it. That is the card we made today. So I want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. Follow me on Facebook for some fun stuff. Until next time, happy crafting, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.